Hello, everyone, and welcome. Um, so, as you can see, we're doing uh, another study stream for my little video, my little video that I'm gonna be doing. Um, so as you can see, we're gonna be doing research on the preposterous claim that vaccines cause autism. TLDR, they don't. But this is, um, well, okay. This claims it has two studies that claim that vaccines cause autism. I already see one of the studies, the Wakefield studies. That's the one I referenced in the last stream where we did this. You might hear my wife in the background, and I hope you don't hear the fans, but you might hear the fans. Actually, hold on. Let me see something. Let me see something real quick. And then I'm going to do that. And then before we go too terribly far, let me actually see. Okay. I don't hear the fans. That's good. Awesome. That's what I was worried about. It is very hot. My parents let the AC die, and refused to repair it. Um, so we've got some smaller AC units throughout the house, and then I've got two box fans pointed at me. So I was worried that would cause a lot of background noise, but it seems it's a good. So anyway, let's go ahead and stop monitoring my voice because that's annoying. And then we'll do that again, although I don't know if that's going to cause any issues later. I guess I'll hear it through the regular. Okay. So anyway, we've got the Wakefield study. So that's the one I referenced in the last thing we did. And this is by the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, or CHOP. It was started the study was in 1998, and it was published in The Lancet. Does it mention? I don't know if it mentions it here because it was, because it's kind of small section here, but it wasn't even published as a proper story. It was published as an early report, and that's how he got away with publishing it without peer review, which is normally what you want in a fully published study. Is you want it to be peer reviewed. And it did actually have a response in the same publication of The Lancet. Oh, did not nope. Same publication of the Lancet. They in which they warn about causing a panic with with vaccines, undue panic with vaccines, as it could cause a lot of public hesitancy. Which, boy, is that is that the truth? But anyway, so yeah, the hypothesis was that it was the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine. It wasn't all vaccines, mind you. It was just that one. And they only, well, I think they did do, I think they did do, um, they might have done more than 12 children, but the study only quotes 12 children in it, which is a very small sample size. With a study like that, you want there to be, you obviously starting small is perfect. It's anyone that's watched the Mythbusters and seen how they do things. That's actually like what they do. So when they do those big experiments that they do, and they first do a small scale, that is the equivalent of a pilot study. That is, they are testing how they are going to be testing it, any potential flaws with the bigger testing. It's to test whether or not there's anything to test in the first place. Because if you're going to spend, if you're going to get, if you're going to have to spend millions and millions of dollars in testing something, you want to make sure that there's something reasonable to test. So by doing the small scale, you're spending pennies on the dollar to see if there's even something there to test, if your hypothesis has any merit whatsoever. And after the small scale, with the small scale, after you figure out, how you're going to be doing the study and whether there is something there to test, and all of these other factors that the small scale studies, these pilot studies, are there for, then you can go and say, here's my pilot study. Here's the methodology we'll be using. Let's go ahead and do it on a big scale. And that's when you get a wider variety of subjects, in this case with medical human subjects, to then be like, all right, we need this many subjects to test, and then you get all of that fun stuff. So the fact that there are only 12 children in and of itself is not a bad thing for what it was supposed to be. The problem is that he then went ahead and just held a press conference announcing the results of the study. He made up a lot of the results himself, which doesn't look like they really keep track of here. But yeah, he made up a lot of the results, and so he went ahead with the press conference, and that's where the issue comes from, is that it was sent, the study was sent to the press, who didn't know what to do with the information, so just reported the findings, because, it takes a lot to learn how to read an actual study. there are videos out there if you are interested in learning how to read a study. There are studies out, there is videos out there to help you figure out how to read a study. But anyway, that was the crux of the issue, is that he went to the press with this piddly little fucking small ass study that proved nothing about nothing. All right. Anyway. 90% of children received MMR. Yes. Okay. So that's another issue. I'm not sure how deep I want to get into each study, because ideally my plan is that it won't be, that it's only going to be about 20 minutes itself. For the anti-vaccine section is only going to be about 20 minutes. So I don't know how deep I want to go, but this is another thing, is that MMR is administered at a time when many children are diagnosed with autism. Autism, here's the thing. Autism is something you're kind of born with, but when you're young, autism is very difficult to see, because for obvious reasons, babies all act the same way when they're babies. And some cry, there's obviously some differences in how they act, but for the most part, babies are just babies. So autism really isn't really noticeable until that noticeable. You can notice it if you're paying attention. You can notice it earlier, but autism isn't noticeable until they are toddlers, which is also around the time that they would get the MMR vaccine. So it's one of those questions of, what came first, the chicken or the egg, or, is it causation or causality? It's that whole idea there. And yeah, see, and that's the other issue, is that he did not do both vaccinated and unvaccinated in the study. Yeah. He only tested vaccinated children. And again, he also lied about a lot of the results. I cannot stress that enough. Yeah, and then symptoms were observed after, not before. Which, again, is also a issue. So basically, what this and this means is that there's no control. And again, if anyone that ever watched Mythbusters, Mythbusters obviously had its own set of flaws as it is a entertainment property rather than a proper scientific one, but they do a lot of things that are scientific. In this case, a lot of times they will have a control where they're like, all right, here's the test without, one of the tests they did was whether sponges that are used to clean a toilet are have more bacteria than non toilet sponges. There's something along, maybe it's just a bathroom sponge in general. I cannot remember exactly, but they did a study, something like that, where it was a bathroom sponge compared to a regular sponge. But because both of those are quite different, they also just monitored the bacteria of just a sponge that was not, maybe, I can't remember if they wet it at least, but they tested against a sponge that was not used to clean. But yeah, so they had that control where they had just a regular ass sponge that was not used, and then compared it to a sponge that was used in a bathroom compared to a sponge used in a sink. And see, that's where this issue with the vaccination, this Andrew Wakefield study is that they never had the control of, okay, we're going to just, the idea is that they should have had this group of children prior to diagnosis, and monitored them before and after autism, as well as monitoring children that were vaccinated and unvaccinated. And so, like, have the juxtaposition of both those rather than just, okay, okay, all vaccines cause autism, which again, I cannot stress enough, he made up the results, and he made up the results because he was for this study, he was being paid by a lawyer who was hired by a group of people that thought the MMR vaccine caused autism. There's only about 30 families worldwide that believed that at the time of the study. 30 families worldwide that believed that at the time of the study. Hired a lawyer who then hired him to make the study. And then when the results didn't pan out the way he wanted, he then just made up the results. I cannot stress enough that that is not the way scientific studies happen. With true science, you take the evidence as it is and figure out what the evidence itself says, rather than trying to manipulate the evidence to show what you personally believe in. You cannot have an ego as a scientist. I mean, there are obviously scientists that do, and that is a whole ass other problem. But for you to truly believe in science, you have to be willing to be wrong. Because sometimes your hypothesis will not get proven. But a lot of what I'm going to be talking about with these grifters is they will take the evidence, and rather than figure out what the evidence actually says, they will manipulate the evidence to their belief. And then they'll share it with other people that believe the same thing as a way to reassure them that they're right and they don't have to change their worldview at all. Anyway, so this one I'm not familiar with. So 2002, published a second paper. Okay, I didn't know he published a second paper. 2002. Was that was around... That would have been around the time. I don't remember when he got his medical license revoked. But that would have been around the time his medical license got revoked. Anyway, Wakefield and coworkers published a second paper examining the relationship between measles virus and autism. See, that's the other thing. In his study, he also patented a alternative measles vaccine. And it just so happens that he argued that the measles portion of the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine was the one that caused autism. I wonder why he said it was the measles part of the MMR. Anyway, between the measles virus and autism, the authors tested intestinal biopsy samples for the presence of measles virus from children with and without autism. Let's see. 75 of the 91 children with autism were found to have had measles virus in intestinal biopsy tissue, compared with only 5 of 70 patients who didn't have autism. Interesting. On its surface, this was a concerning result. However, the second Wakefield paper was also critically flawed for the following reasons. Measles vaccine virus is live and attenuated. After inoculation, the vaccine virus probably replicates for about 15 to 20 times. Measles vaccine virus is likely to be taken up by specific cells responsible for the virus uptake and presentation to the immune system. Because all APCs are mobile and can travel throughout the body, it is plausible that children immunized with MMR would have had measles virus detected in intestinal tissues using a very sensitive array. To determine if MMR is associated with autism, one must determine if the finding is specific for children with autism. That's the key right there. Therefore, children with or without autism must be identical in 2 ways. First, children with or without autism must be matched for immunization status. So, they have to have children with and without autism, and they have to make sure that both those children got the MMR. Second, children must be matched for the length of time between the receipt of the MMR vaccine and the collection of the biopsy specimens. In other words, if you collected the biopsy specimens from one set of children a month after MMR, you would have to then collect the biopsy specimens for the other group of children 1 month after MMR. So you would have to make sure that you're doing it the same every time. Although this information was clearly available to investigators and critical to their hypothesis, it was specifically omitted from the paper. Because natural measles virus is still circulating in England, it would have been important to determine whether measles virus detected in these samples were natural measles or vaccine measles. They are different, despite what a lot of people say. Although methods are available to distinguish these 2 types of viruses, the authors chose not to use them. So they didn't isolate what type of measles virus it was. The method used to detect measles virus in these studies was also very sensitive. Laboratories work with natural measles virus, such as the lab where these studies were performed, are at high risk of getting the results that are incorrectly positive. No mention is made in the paper as to how this problem was avoided, probably because they didn't want to acknowledge false positives. As is true for all laboratory studies, the person who is performing the test should not know whether the sample is obtained. So basically being blind. See, again, with science, you want to separate yourself from all biases. So you want to make sure that you don't know which subjects are what, because if you knew, even if you were trying to be completely objective, we are all human. Our natural biases are always going to slightly influence what we do. So, by making it completely blind, you can by making it completely blind, you just have to monitor the results, and you don't know which group is which. Which is also why a lot of times these studies have lots of different people that do lots of different things, because that way there's that separation there. Cases showing that MMR vaccine does not cause autism. Okay, yeah, I mean, I'm going to kind of skip this section right here just because there are actually a lot of studies. So is it just those 2 studies then? I did not know that he did a second study. And actually, hold on. Like I said, I'm pretty sure that's around the time his medical license was revoked. Really? Hold on. Really? It wasn't until... That's crazy. That's crazy, bro. I thought that... I knew that... See, I figured all of this would have happened earlier because... Yeah, Brian Deere started publishing about, all of the bullshit going on in the mid 2000s. So I thought and I knew a lot of information he had gotten was between both the general counsel hearings and the, and also the fact that he was, sued by Andrew Wakefield for, libel. And because he was being sued by libel in regard to the findings of the, in terms of the study, the study had to be, the unredacted papers of the study actually had to be used as evidence, in which case Andrew Wakefield tried so hard to dismiss the his libel lawsuit as quickly as possible. So because of that, I thought that maybe the GMC hearings were earlier than they were. But yeah, no. Between 2007 and 2010. So no, that would have been still well within his bullshittery. Okay. That's crazy. Yeah, I did not know about this second study. I know a lot about this first study. I'm going to have to look into the second study. All right. Let's see. In 1998, a paper describing 12 children. I wonder what paper that was. Yeah, and the thing is, he wasn't even a doctor that had any knowledge about autism. He was a gastroenterologist. Anyway. Uh, do, do, do. Oh, this actually is a very interesting thing to note. See, the part of my this video essay I'm working on, I need to have like I want to, you know, address why people would think the way they think. And this is a great section for that. Let's see, what to this perceived link. Who were vaccinated? All those studies found no association. Once it started to become clear that it was not associated, shifted from MMR to thimerosal. At this point, we have 16 well-conducted, large population studies, carefully designed, done by different investigators in different countries using different but strong methods, and all have found no relationship between MMR, thimerosal, or the number of vaccines given, and autism. That is a very important thing to note as well. So I'm actually, hold on. Let's see. You can't see what I'm doing, I just realized. Because I have it window-based rather than anything else based. All right. And I'm actually... Okay. 2002 Wakefield study. That should pull it up. Well, I know about the... The one downside I have about this is it's not for obvious. I get it because they're not wanting to actually publish misinformation, so they're not going to actually publish, you know, a link to the study or, you know, whatever. But does actually have a link for me to go to read the study. So now I have to go and find the study, which will be interesting. Because like the first, well, actually maybe Wakefield will, I can find it through his Wikipedia. But like, this first study was like non-dysplasial, blah blah blah, ileal something. It was a whole the whole title. It wasn't just, you know, vaccines and autism as the study. The study actually had like a very scientific study-ish name. And I'm sure that's what this study did too. So, okay, we'll go ahead and save that. We'll take a look at some of those other studies as well soon. While we wait, well, while I search for this, I'll just pull up. We'll go ahead and actually, there we go. Boom. So this is what I'm working with right now. Okay. Oh, and this is going to be like, I don't know if I'm actually going to do this or not. See, I'm trying to figure out, again, I have a list of people. I don't want to, because psychics themselves are pretty well known to be debunked. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time going through it. Just kind of, it's more highlighting the manipulative tactics that they use, because it's very similar to the tactics that others use for some of these other categories. So, once we, so we won't be doing too much with that. Oh, okay. So, okay, let's see. Let me move. This over here. Okay, actually, you know what I'm gonna do? First study. So again, I didn't realize he did a second study. Okay, so the second study. Um, Tested biopsy samples. And I'll actually try to find the actual study itself. But yeah, oh yeah, I didn't even tell you that the reason that they, why am I? Intestinal. I didn't even tell you why. Why they were testing, the intestinal biopsy. So, crazy thing is, this fucking psychopath argued that the measles vaccine got stuck in the intestines of small children, which caused bread and milk to not digest properly. And them getting stuck in the intestine caused them to produce a, quote, morphine-like substance, end quote, which would then leak out of the gut and go into the brain. Yeah, literally insane. All right. Tested intestinal biopsies. Um, for children with, doesn't matter, and without autism. Uh, 75 of 91 children with autism had measles. Measles. In samples 5 of 70 without autism had measles in samples. Okay. We'll just go ahead and do this. Um, children of both groups weren't matched for immunization status. Um, um, well, actually, I'm not gonna put it weren't. I'll say needed to be. Um, length of time between uh immunization and samples need to be the same. Um, for both groups. Information omitted from paper. Information omitted from paper. Okay. And then did not distinguish. I fucked that up real bad. Distinguish between did not distinguish between natural measles and MMR. no mention of how they negated. I guess I'll put negated false positives. Was not blind. Um, no mention of being blind. Okay. And then we have that down there. We can go ahead and exit out of there. Let's see. What do we have? We have. Let me see if the second study is on. And honestly, I might not even need to do the second. I might not even need to do the second paper. Uh, let's see. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Here we go. Here we go. The 1998 paper was called Ileal lymphoid nodular hypoplasia, nonspecific colitis, and pervasive developmental disorder in children. That's why everyone just says the 1998 study. Let's see. I'm trying to find. Maybe it's that one that they're referring to. He really was obsessed with measles. Looking at this, before the the MMR causing autism, he had a study about uh, Crohn's disease and persistent measles. Well, no, he had two studies about persistent measles and Crohn's disease. So he has as many studies implicating measles as cause of something as he does just in general about Crohn's. And two of them kind of meet in the middle there a little bit. Okay, let's see. Okay. Interesting. Hold on. So, does that paper just not work anymore then? Hold on. Not found, huh? Okay, let's see. "60 affected children. Uh, see, so this study was in 2000. It wasn't 2002, but it was enterocolitis in children, which is the disease he made up in children with developmental disorders. Let's see. Intestinal pathology, i.e., ileochronic lymphoid nodular hyperplasia and mucosal inflammation, have been described in children with developmental disorders by him. The study describes some of the endoscopic and pathological characteristics in a group of children with developmental disorders that are associated with behavioral regression and bowel symptoms and compare them with pediatric controls. Ileoscopy and biopsy were performed on 60 affected children, which is a little bit different than what we move this over. It's not quite what it's saying there. Let's see, hold on. Median age 6 years. Developmental and diagnoses with autism, 50 patients. So there wasn't that big of a control. Asperger's syndrome 5, degenerative disorder 2, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder 1, schizophrenia 1, and dyslexia 1. Several of the LNH were graded 0 to 3 in both affected children, and 37 developmentally normal controls were investigated. Possible inflammatory bowel disease. Tissue sections were reviewed by 3 pathologists, and possible inflammatory bowel disease tissue sections were reviewed by 3 pathologists and scored on a standard performa. Data were compared with colonoc, God, I cannot read today. Biopsies from 22 historically normal children, controls, and 20 children with ulcerative colitis. I just realized I kind of fucked up by moving that there, huh? There we go. There we go. From 22 histologically normal children, controls, 20 children with ulcerative colitis scored in an identical manner. Gut pathogens were sought routinely. Let's see. Ilio LNH was present in 54 of the 58 affected children, and in 5 of 35 controls. Hold on. Let's pull this up real quick. I wonder, it's not quite, the numbers don't quite line up with that article I found, but a lot of the numbers are very close. So LNH was present in 54 of the 58 affected children, and in 5 of the 35 children. But maybe, hold on, let's read this again. No. I was trying to figure out, because if you do the 58 plus the 35, that's 93. It said 91 children, but it was 91 children with autism. And not all of them had autism in this study. And then 5 of 35 here, and it said 5 of 70 without. But it also has 18 of 60, and it does admit in the study, I don't know. Okay. I'm unsure if this is the study or not, but we'll continue reading anyway. Let's see. It was present in 54 of the 58 affected children and in 5 of the 35 controls. Colonic LNH was present in 18 of the 60 affected children and in 2 of the 37 controls. Two. Again, it doesn't quite line up because I was just thinking that the controls for the colonic LNH, if you add up the control of those and the ileal, that's 72, and it said there were 72 without autism in that article or there were 70 in that article we read, so that was super close too. But when you add up the 2 of the affected children totals, does not add. It's quite a bit higher. So I'm not sure. This could be what it was referencing. the year doesn't add up and the numbers are close but don't quite add up. But I didn't see anything about a 2002 study. But I do know now that there is another study, but I don't know that I need a second Wakefield study to debunk for the video. Because you could easily do just 20 minutes just talking about the fucking bullshit in this first paper. Let's see. Let's see. Histologically reactive follicular hyperplasia was present in 46 of 52 ileal biopsies from affected children and in 4 of 14 with UC, but not in non-IBD controls. Active ileitis was present in 4 of 51 affected children, but not controls. Chronic colitis was also identified in 53 of 60 affected children, compared to 1 of 22 controls, and in 20 of 20 with UC. Scores of frequency and severity of inflammation were significantly greater in both affected children and those with UC compared with control. So that is okay. So that is can't find that. Okay. Of course, it's just the abstract. It's not the. Does this lead to? Direction of, that's where we came from. Similar articles. That looks like the exact same page. Okay. Cystic enterocolitis. No, that's just a analyzation of everything that. No, autistic enterocolitis does not exist. Okay. I don't see anything else over here. Okay, so maybe found question mark. Second Wakefield studies study questions. Because if I can't find the study that matches what they say the study says, this reference. Oh, did not mean to do that. Got it. um, if I can't find the second study that matches what this says, then that this reference is useless. Okay, so um since we're still on this subject right now, we'll go ahead. Did I? Fuck, did not mean to do that. Okay. Let's see. Aaron Rodgers suspension. Uh, Okay. Hmm. Here we go. That's what I was looking for. All right. Oh, I didn't switch back over. Okay. So, August 26th, um, 2021 said he was immunized from COVID 19. Let's see. Mm, uh, let's see. To do draconian measures. Uh, broke. Yeah, that's right. uh, let's see. God, this guy is fucking. I know I'm a Lions fan, but goddamn, this guy's a fucking asshole. I forgot how much of an asshole he is. Okay. Was it? This was published at November 5th, so it could have been in October when he tested positive. Hold on. Aaron Rodgers positive test results. Let's see. This was November 3rd. This is when ESPN published that, so we'll say that. Okay. All right. So, yeah, I know I'm a Lions fan, and just because he's the Packers quarterback, I naturally do dislike him. But holy shit, he does not do himself any favors by being a fucking asshole. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Oh, interesting. Yeah. Hold on. Okay, so actually, we'll put it here. I have an idea. Uh, mu, uh, mu, white. You guys won't understand what any of this means, but I do. Um, all right. Good. Shovel and bucket. I should say and. Hold on. And bucket. And actually, I'm going to highlight these. Oh, it's not. I didn't want the whole thing. I'm going to highlight those. Probably in green. Uh, River, Biloxi, Healer of history, no longer a mystery, footprints and stones. River of history. Return and stand in awed surprise. And as it makes its journey, it tells a tale to you. A magic tale, so good to fear. The river, I don't know that I have. I don't know that I have something for this. Sorry, my wife is playing a game. As it makes its journey, it tells a tale to you. The river, let's see, revealer of history. What is this mystery of footprints and stone? All right. Let's see. Old mic and stand. All right, there we go. I might have a couple others because I might just do, I don't know what I would do for this. But if I can think of something else I could do, um, I'll add it. But yeah, you know, obviously I mentioned that for the video, I'm doing, it's going to be me unpacking, you know, for when we move or whatever. So it would be These are items that I would unpack. Um, items that I would unpack and then display for the rest of the video in various places. Um, hold on. 1, 2, where? 1 in shadow box. There we go. I do have a shadow box, and I was planning on putting a jersey in there. I was planning on putting a different jersey in there, but I do have multiple Lions jerseys. So I could just, you know, put one in that shadow box. I do have to find a way of illuminating it, because it's not a shadow box that has a light, but LED strips are cheap. Okay. Where is... Oh, there's my other notebook. Hold on. Okay. Set that there in case we have another. Anytime I think of a joke that I could add, you know. All right. Anyway, so we got some of that done. Now what was the... I remember that argument he had. Um, oh, come on. There we go. My mouse accidentally lowered its sensitivity. Okay. Yeah, but what? There's a specific ingredient, and I remember. Uh, let's see. Yeah. uh, yeah, so, okay. I thought for sure there was, he said, I thought he said what ingredient he was allergic to. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Sacramento Bee. It still doesn't reveal whether or not it is actually what he was allergic to. It does have a lot of information regarding that that I could possibly use. All right. Mm. All right. Uh. Then. Let's see. Um. Wedges. Allergic to ingredient in mRNA vaccines. Actually, hold on. Despite, J, and J being put back on market after more thorough testing for safety. And not having same ingredients. Um, let's see. What was it? It was November 3rd, right? That I said. Let's see. Yeah, November 3rd. Uh, all right, we can now. Okay. This is more Aaron. We're going to go ahead and start closing up some of these tabs. This is more Aaron. The amount of work I had to do to find anything about this. Everyone and their mom wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt back then. And now it's kind of been shown that he never needed benefit of the doubt, and like we all had been saying. I had a guy that was a Niners fan that I was friends with who also and obviously the Niners have a lot of great success against Aaron. But also that guy believed Aaron was an asshole. And that was again before Um, there we go. Let's see. Maybe. I'll just throw that in the Wakefield pile. Okay. Close that out. And then where was that? That was it this one that I had the, yeah, that was the one. Copy. Okay. All right, we got all of that done. I can also close the calculator out. Okay, so we knocked out a lot of the anti-vax stuff. Still not sure. I'm not sure what to do with the RFK stuff. Or even if I'm gonna keep on that, because here's the thing. Again, if I end up going a little bit over, that's fine, because I'm not sure how everything else is going to play out. And if I end up doing like 30 minutes per, I don't really want to do that. But if it ends up being 30 minutes per, but it kind of all comes together that way, that's fine. But I'm aiming for 20 minutes per section. And already just looking at a lot of this stuff, Andrew Wakefield alone, I can't not talk about anti-vax without talking about Andrew Wakefield. And the Andrew Wakefield stuff alone will take up half the time. And I have a prop and a joke set aside for the Aaron Rodgers stuff. And I don't really have a prop for either Andrew Wakefield or RFK, that are RFK or Andrew Wakefield related. So, well, I guess I kind of do. We'll see. We'll figure it out. I don't really have that here, right? So, kind of need to keep that in just for, the overall, theming of the video, right? But I also don't necessarily want, because of the impact that RFK already has and will continue to have in his current position, it would almost be intellectually dishonest not to talk about that when talking about this stuff. But we'll see. We'll figure it out. But yeah, we've knocked out quite a bit of stuff. We can actually start like writing, a script like for this section already, just based off of what we have. And like, because if I'm going to be discussing Aaron Rodgers, I have to discuss ivermectin as a uh, as it's supposed to be used in medicine, and why certain grifters have chosen that particular medicine as a cure-all for everything. um then we have uh and then I have to go into the allard oh, okay, yeah. For whatever reason I read that as allergies allergic to. It's no alleges allergic to. But I have to follow up with like what ingredients people can be allergic to in the RNA vaccine, why the Johnson Johnson was pulled in the first place, and why it was put back on the market. I've just I have to discuss why the NFL's had those COVID-19 rules and the impact of not following them. I don't really have to talk too much about him being tested for that's more so I have that in there for the story. Was it ad time? Looks like it might be ad time. Okay. So then we have that very well could be just 20 minutes right there. Easily. So then yeah, all right. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I think I'm gonna go ahead and call it. I have to be up at 4 a.m. for work, but tomorrow's my Friday. Beam, beam, beam. So then I'll have 2 days off, and we're gonna be looking at more houses tomorrow. So yay! We're gonna. We're gonna be a good spot. A good spot. Okay. So I know these streams aren't exactly the most entertaining, but I've mentioned before I enjoy streaming. I'm trying to get better at just learning, doing my own learning and actually looking into stuff like this. And I figure I can combine the two, and I'm doing this anyway for a video, so it's like, it's already there. So, so like I said, I'm gonna be making it anyway. Might as well show you the process of me making it. So, all right, well, I'm going to go ahead and get off. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.